What you gonna do, brother, when Jeff Townsend Media runs wild on you?
Man, Luke, I know you love it when that happens.
Yeah,
Because
I
I,
do.
I edit these episodes, and every time I say something, sometimes I leave it in the intro, sometimes I don't. But what you gonna do, brother, when Jeff Townsend Media? You think I should tell people that Hulk Hogan actually voiced that over for me?
I mean, yeah, might as well.
Let's get the banner going here. Is it? Yeah, we got it.
Oh yeah, in one.
We'll give it just a second here, let people file in, then we'll get going.
Yeah.
I've got a whole new setup here, dude. Like, finally got a good microphone boom arm, man. You got a Joby one, so
That's awesome.
yep.
Yeah, looks good.
Got two monitors. I'm jocking on it.
I got two monitors, although one is just got other stuff on it.
Yeah. I mean, I typically do in my other room, but just for some reason I didn't in here. I don't know. Crazy. All right, let me pull up one more website and we'll get going here.
Nice.
Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
All right. This is Jeff Townsend, and you are joining Luke and I for yet another live stream of your scary stories, the show where we share your scary stories or a collection of scary stories around the internet live every other Monday-ish. Right. We really need to get a ish t-shirt.
We do.
Viv Games needs to design that t-shirt because we do have the live schedule up on our website. I did do a lot on even though it's Viv Games' job, I put a lot of work into the website the last couple weeks. So I think it's looking better. It's got some more information, like I just said, including the live stream schedule. So I believe we come back. This will be our last recording until after the 4th of July. So
yeah, the holidays always kind of mess us up.
Which is fine. But this is why tonight we're going to do a little bit of a 4th of July theme here. I say a little bit. It's going to be a lot of it, I think. Everything we talk about tonight will be based on something along those lines that involved 4th of July or 4th of July activities. I'm excited.
Yeah, I am too. I found some good stories. I'm looking forward to talking about them.
How am I sounding, Viv Games and Luke? Am I sounding good? I'm asking because I got a whole new setup here.
It sounds good to me.
Studio. How am I sounding, Viv Games? See what he says. But yeah, tonight's going to be a fun one. Hashtag America. I guess that means good. I guess that means I'm sounding good. I don't know.
They might be a few seconds behind. Oh, it sounds good.
Hashtag America. We are good. Okay. All right. So Luke, so you have 3, right? And I have really one story that I'm going to break down into 2 parts. The second part will be longer, but you actually have 3, right?
That's correct.
So that will give you the passageway, the pedestrian has the right of way, and you will kick it off with your 3 stories with your first tonight. Let me try to get the music queued up and ready.
All righty.
Always takes a minute.
Yeah. And then we have our mic issues for a split second or 2.
Yeah, it always does something weird.
All right, let that play for a minute, and
yeah,
hopefully our audio catches up.
Yeah, I can hear you right now.
I can hear you too, which is weird. Normally we can't.
How's the volume compared to how we're talking here, Viv Games? Does it sound good over this music? I asked because I think the music comes in lower because I'm controlling it.
Probably. I know that on mine it sounds pretty good.
Yeah, but I never hardly hear it, so I assume it sounds well. We'll wait to see what he says here. We'll give it the go ahead.
All right. I'll get my story ready anyway.
Music and sound is good to him. Fanta. Do you want a Fanta?
Every day.
Let me take a drink of this Fanta, then we will get going. All right, Luke. All right, Luke. We're passing it off to you. Yep. I'm going to mute my mic, and you will start off with the first story this evening.
All right. The first story this evening is called 4th of July Neighbors. This happened about 3 years ago on the 4th of July. I'm a child of 2 divorced parents, and I had to rotate between both of my parents on holidays every year. This year, it was my dad's turn to spend 4th of July with me. My dad had recently bought this new house about a few months prior to this incident, So this was going to be the first time he could invite the whole family over and do some barbecuing in the backyard. For the most part, it was a great day. It was sunny, and the whole family was back there chatting, laughing, drinking, and eating ribs and burgers. All the kids were in the front yard playing. All my cousins and second cousins and various family friends were there also, including my younger sister. We were all playing, and the other kids were on the roof looking at the stars. It was around 7 p.m., and we had all just finished our burgers and hot dogs in the backyard. We're all running to the front yard through this narrow hose trail on the side of my dad's house that connects the backyard to the front yard. I didn't mention this, but my dad's neighbors had always been really quiet and mysterious. I'd never even seen them walk out the house. That house had a really big and awkwardly placed window that had the entire overlook of my dad's house. I remember running to the front yard with kids when a bright orange light catches my attention. Someone in that house had turned the lights on. This really pale woman with an oversized head peeks through the window. She has the perfect view of all of us. She was thin, had dark hair and really narrow eye sockets, almost as if she had lines for eyes. I stand there looking at her frozen in place. She was incredibly eerie and looked almost non-human. She had a grin as wide as a ruler and a gaze that just petrified me. I couldn't even describe this fully, and no one noticed. I was the only one looking at her. Looking into her eyes were as if I was looking into a dead and soulless being. It's almost as if she was empty and evil. Then she extended her arm outside the window and pointed it directly at me for a few minutes. Her fingers were thin and long, and her nails were stained black. Her eyes widened, and I can't explain how scared for my life I was. The best I can explain it was, she kind of looked like that Momo character on steroids. I remember fainting and waking up in my sister's bedroom in the house. To this day, I still don't know who she was and why she looked like that.
Wow.
It's a creepy person.
Would this ruin the 4th of July or what?
So this was a younger kid I gathered from the way this was written, and they were talking about bouncing between families, right, for during the holidays. So I would assume this would definitely ruin a little kid's 4th of July, big time.
The description of this woman is crazy. So huge head.
Yeah.
Let's back up. She was looking in the window.
She was looking. All right. So the window overlooked the house, and the kids saw her in the window looking out at them. And yeah, so she had a huge head, pale, dark, scraggly hair, thin, like slits for eyes almost, kind of thing, like squinting perpetually. And then she had long, thin fingers with blackened fingernails. Really creepy. Really creepy. I can, you can see like there's probably just some random old woman that looks like this to a little kid, especially at night. But still, that would scare me as a kid.
Yeah, this is a creepy one as a kid, and just happens to be on this certain day.
I think that what feels so fun about it though, because like this is a classic kid summer story, of like a creature next door. Yeah, I liked it for that.
It's just and I think the crazy part is we remember such detailed things when we're young, like, but not certain other things. But in this particular one, we do because it was significant. Like all the facial features and like you just said, the fingernails. He described it perfectly. I'm actually picturing like fingernails that look like they were like hit with a hammer, like bruises over on the tip.
Yeah,
hit yourself with a
like
hammer.
that.
Yeah. Man. So no real. Again, like we have a lot of these stories. There's no real answers.
Yeah, just this really creepy person next door. And kind of like we had like a lot of creepy people stories here recently.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I read that one. I was like, man, this sounds fun. I mean, it's a little bit scary, a little bit creepy. It is from a kid's perspective, so
You think
like,
anybody believes the kid?
not a chance.
Yeah. Like
No.
I'm not trying to be mean, but how old was this person?
They didn't say, but they did mention that they were probably younger because they weren't hanging out with the older kids on the roof.
Yeah.
So
So I mean, I have younger daughters, right? And they told me that I'd be like, yeah, it's bullshit. I wouldn't say bullshit to them, but I'd be thinking that the whole time, right?
yeah,
So
just
yeah.
leave the neighbors alone. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Quit. Exactly. I don't know though. It had to be terrifying to this kid, though. I have no doubt about that.
I don't know if you ever seen that Momo before.
I haven't. So hold on, let me look it up.
Yeah. So this was a creepy pasta thing that went around for a little bit there.
You said Momo.
Yeah, Momo. And so
Oh golly.
they said it looked like that on steroids, like more amped up and scarier than that.
Somebody's selling something with it. Okay, see if I can see it here.
Yeah.
That?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's terrifying. Momo, no. Oh my gosh. I see what he's saying. They're like the ruler, like a
Yeah.
wide mouth.
Wide mouth.
Gosh, that's terrifying.
So, yeah.
The eyes in this particular one are. What is this character from?
I don't know.
Is it just some like fictional tale or like
someone made it, I think, and they started using it as a profile pic, and it just blew up from there.
Okay, I'm trying to see if there's like Rolling Stones articles. This is like an actual big thing.
Oh, it's a huge thing. Yeah, I'm actually surprised you hadn't heard about it.
The Japan Times. He's like, it's a big thing in Japan.
Yeah,
The Momo Challenge hoax. What the hell is this?
Oh, I think it was something like if you didn't do something, Momo was going to kill you. It was like Slender Man, you know.
Let's read this Momo Challenge here since we're already into it.
Yeah, go for it.
This is a Wikipedia, by the way. Good source here. The Momo Challenge was a hoax and an internet urban legend that was rumored to spread through social media and other outlets. It was reported that children and adolescents were being harassed by a user named Momo to perform a series of dangerous tasks, including violent attacks, self-harm, harming others, and suicide. Despite claims that the phenomenon had reached worldwide portions in July 2018, the number of actual complaints was relatively small, and many law enforcement agencies have not been able to confirm that anyone was harmed as a direct result of this. Moreover, the challenge sparked global panic and prompted urgent warnings from authorities and child safety advocates. Reports of children encountering Momo's disturbing messages circulated widely, causing a heightened fear among parents and caregivers. I have never heard of this.
It was something.
So this is like some hoax, some like elaborate thing.
Yeah, it was pretty big.
Momo would tell you to do bad things, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and it kind of like threaten you a little bit if you didn't.
And fuck Momo.
Yeah, I mean, fuck whoever was behind it. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's a weird thing to make up. They have
Yeah.
a lot of time on their hands to make something like that up.
What
Says
an
the two
asshole.
guys telling scary stories here, but kind of like, okay, we'll see what Viv Games says. Viv Games is going nuts when it's about this.
Yeah.
But he says kind of like Slender Man and Red Mirror or whatever the mirror thing was. Yeah. But I think those are like things that you did like with your. This sounds like something that it was trying to get you to do terrible stuff.
Yeah.
Not look in the mirror and say bloody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Slender Man's pretty terrifying too, though. Let's be honest. We need to get some good Slender Man stories in here. I'm sure there's some.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Um,
I'll have to track down some weird stories like that next time.
Yeah, for sure. Trying to get distance from this mic here. Yeah, so I can go ahead and go. Mine is a little bit different. So okay, so this did not happen on the 4th of July, but it's about fireworks. So this obviously relates to it. And I had never heard of this, so I'm excited to share this. This happened on, let's see here. It was May 27th, 1983. It's the Benton fireworks disaster, Benton, Tennessee. Have you heard of this?
I don't think so.
This is a huge thing. So what I did was I found a local news station that had a clip about it. So keep in mind, this clip I'm about to share is actually from 1983. Then we'll go into the story after this. We're going to break it down in two parts. First part won't be quite as long, but we'll set the stage for the longer second part. Let's go ahead and start off with the news clip that covered the disaster.
Later learned it happened in an illegal fireworks operation. Here's our coverage from 1983.
News 12's Thursday Throwback, sponsored by Kubota of Chattanooga.
The victims were inside this secret fireworks factory this morning when the facility blew up shortly after 9 o'clock. The explosion leveled the structure and could be felt up to 15 miles away.
I was walking through the jail and I heard a loud explosion. Walked to the back door of the jail and I could see a white puddle of smoke coming from this area. I got in my patrol car and proceeded out here to the scene. I was one of the first ones here on the scene.
Polk County Sheriff officials say they had received information that fireworks were being manufactured in the area, but they didn't know where. Following this morning's blast, they now believe that the 5-year-old Webb's Bait Farm was just a front for the M80 operation. The blast also damaged several cars, the Webb's home, a storage trailer, and shattered the windows of a neighbor's house.
I never had nothing as loud and go as bad as it went. And it seemed like the whole house was crumbling up. It just seemed like I could feel it, and I thought it was an earthquake.
Officials at the scene say the secret manufacturing facility appeared to have been a lucrative operation. In addition to the firecrackers, with the strength of a third of a stick of dynamite each, officials found drums of volatile dry chemicals at the scene, more volatile than is necessary to make simple firecrackers. The owner of the plant, Dan Webb, has not been located. He's believed to be somewhere in New York City today. 3 of his relatives are thought to be among the dead. But Webb's aunt, Patsy Kennedy, arrived at the scene late this afternoon.
He sells worms, delivers them. That's what he does. He's on the road doing that.
Were you surprised to find that they were making explosives?
Oh, shocked, I tell you.
Boy, what a powerful story. Dan Webb was delivering M80s in Illinois when that deadly explosion happened.
Yeah, so I think that set the stage pretty well. This is a pretty crazy thing. They were using a front, for a worm factory. Let me hit the music going, then we'll get it going.
Okay.
Let me know when you can hear me.
It's breaking up a little bit. Give it a minute.
We get through it here. Can you hear me now? Man, this thing's taking a minute.
It's weird. Oh, there we go.
You're good. So I'm good. Okay. All right. So this information I'm about to share to you was from episode 23 called The Benton Fireworks Disaster, Organized Crime. This was released on this article I'm reading was released on March 13th, 2023. I will have the article in the show notes. It's from the Stembusy style list, and I'm not gonna lie here. If I mess up any of these names, and you're from there, I'm sorry. I'm gonna try my best. I don't want to butcher any names and offend anybody that was a part of it or involved in this area. So I'm going to go ahead of time and apologize, and I'll get into this story here. Again, this is the Benton, Tennessee fireworks disaster. We just watched the intro that we played. It was a news coverage from this in 1983. They covered it live on the scene. It looked like it was the day of or the day after, I would assume it. There was bodies laying around, I believe, covered up by bags and different things that we just saw. So obviously that was right when it happened. We'll go into this article here, though. No one in the community suspected the unassuming worm farmers at Webb's Bait Farm were hiding a sinister secret. Polk County is located in the southern corner of the USA state of Tennessee. As of the 2020 United States Census, the population was 17,544. The county seat is in Benton. The county was created and founded on November 28, 1839, from parts of Bradley and McMinn counties after final removal of most of the Cherokee out of that region. The county was named after the then governor and future president, James K. Polk. The Benton County population was 1,532 at the 2020 census. So, Webb's Bait Farm, located along Welcome Valley Road near Interstate with Reynolds Bridge Road and Pankey Lane in rural Polk County, about 2 miles south of Benton. A large sign at the edge of the road identified the property as Webb's Bait Farm, offering red worms and fishing tackle for sale. owned by a man named Dan Lee Webb. Webb looked like a garden variety earthworm farmers. They had been in business since 1978. They also owned a masonry business and faced a large cutback with high interest rates, reduced work available. However, Webb obviously decided that he needed more income and that those worms were bringing in. Dan Webb's relative David Parks and Howard Emmett Barmbelt, and again, I'm apologizing if I butchered that, Barmblett of nearby Osh began manufacturing M80 and M100 fireworks, which are banned by federal laws, in an old metal dairy barn on the farm. Barmblett, who owned fireworks store in Benton and was an acquaintance of Webb, suggested that Webb begin operation to combat financial problems. He reportedly taught Webb and Parks how to manufacture these fireworks, and then connected them with suppliers of materials and distributors in multiple states. John Franklin Miller of Holland, Ohio, also helped line up buyers and split the fee with Barmblett. This is a quote here, I had to figure out a way to make more money to pay bills, he said. Time went along and things got desperate, so I started to talk to Howard more seriously about us making M80s. Webb converted a building on his farm to a factory and hired friends and relatives to work there for $5 an hour. This happened in late September 1982, and this article quotes it as equivalent to $14 an hour now. He paid them cash at the end of each day. Each firework case, which contained 1,440 individual fireworks, was sold for $160. That's equivalent to $435 today. With Barmblett, who was responsible for selling the fireworks, and John Franklin Miller, an Ohio fireworks manufacturer who was the primary supplier of materials, was responsible for soliciting customers, each receiving $10 to want to sell there. The two-story 40 by 70 barn that housed the factory consisted of chemical mixing room on the first floor and an assembly room on the second floor. The building was tucked in a little wooden hillside on the farm. Most employees were not aware of the dangers involved and were not educated in safe working conditions, even though they were mixing explosives by hand. Between December 1982 and the date of the explosion, a total of 1,542,880 M-Series fireworks were reported to be manufactured at that factory and distributed to at least 12 states. The factory was determined to have accumulated a profit of about $1.2 million. Again, a few years ago, it's equivalent to about $3 million during its operation. At its peak, the factory ran a minimum of 6 days a week, employed between 12 to 14 people, and produced between 100 and 130 cases of fireworks a week. In the months leading up to the blast, the Polk County Sheriff's Office, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, TBI, and Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, ATF, had received word of an illegal fireworks manufacturing operation in the area, but were uncertain of the location. Reports also say that smaller explosions could be... Okay, let me read this again. Reports also say that smaller explosions could be murder coming from the Webb property by neighbors in the months leading up to it. Yeah, that word murder is not. It's going to be sound. Reports say that the small explosions could be heard coming from the Webb's property by neighbors in the months leading up to the explosion. On May 1983, at approximately 9:15 a.m., 11 workers were on duty when a cache of M80 and M100 explosives, flash powder, and other chemicals in the barn detonated, producing a powerful explosion and instantly killing all 11 workers and leveling the barn. The initial blast was followed over the next several minutes by several smaller blasts, which witnesses described as sounding like shotguns, believed to have been from individual firework cases which were not detonated initially, but then later were. The blast also threw debris as far as 200 yards from the site and produced a shock wave that leveled trees as far as 100 yards away. Several witnesses claimed to have seen a white mushroom cloud which was estimated to be 600 to 800 feet tall, and the blast was heard and felt in Cleveland, which is 20 miles away. The force of the blast shattered windows in several homes and other structures on nearby properties, which reportedly resulted in some neighbors receiving minor cut wounds. Parts of the bodies were hurled through the roofs of nearby houses and carport as far as 500 feet from the site. To one side of the barn, several dozen grave-sized enclosures stood knee-high off the ground. the rectangular beds that produced the operation's legal product, fishing worms, a stone's throw from one end to the other barn's foundation. A white house still stood, a long, skinny building that had been cobbled together over time. It suggested at least 3 additions to the tiny original structure. A door to a Toyota Corolla parked near the barn had also sustained some damage but largely survived. Its windows and rear windshield had shattered, and the right front quarter panel was gone. So were all 4 hubcaps, exposing shiny hubs underneath. The trunk lid had been bent upward a couple of inches, and the car's side bore countless scrapes from flying debris. The skin of the passenger side door, which was facing the barn, had absorbed enough of the blast to flex inward. 6 of the dead were decapitated by force of the blast. Dan's cousin, Tommy Webb, survived only because he was mowing grass outside of the factory. The explosion was also so hard it threw him to the other side of the house. When first responders arrived, he was walking around the yard, dazed, shocked, and badly burned. He is the only one who lived through the explosion. Webb's wife, Linda Sue, who was in the house at the time, fled before the deputies arrived. Crews from the ATF and TBI arrived to investigate the cause of the explosion. A Tennessee Emergency Management Agency, TEMA crew, which concluded forensic specialist William M. Bass of the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, later arrived on the scene to identify the victims. They brought Dr. Bass from the Knoxville Body Farm, to help identify bodies, which this was really new crime scene technology, and it was written about in several publications up to this date. One big worry of the ATF agents was the potential danger from unexploded ordnance, fireworks that had escaped the initial blast, and indeed a mobile home parked near the wreckage of the barn. One side of it peeled open like a sardine can's lid, was jammed with enough firecrackers and bottle rockets and Roman candles to shred the trailer and anybody near it. Luckily, the explosions had consumed the oxygen around the barn, so the blast itself had snuffed out the sparks and embers that might have yet set off a stockpile of fireworks later. Just to be on the safe side, though, the ATF agents oversaw the bulldozing and burial of the trailer's contents beneath several feet of red clay. Oh, man. A lot with that one. We'll go into a little bit more here on part 2, but, man. This was a crazy thing. So a significant blast, 11 people dead, all because of financial hardship, and got into this $1 million+ operation of creating illegal fireworks, Luke.
That is so weird. You wouldn't think that there was that much money in making illegal M80s. Like, you wouldn't think there are that many people trying to buy them. That's crazy how many they were producing a week.
Viv says, that's insane. The explosion was so strong it destroyed the oxygen around the area. Yeah, okay, so we just saw the news footage. It looked like a tornado hit the damn area.
Yeah.
Like a bomb. I guess it was a bomb, right?
Yeah. That blast, they said they felt it in Cleveland, right? 20 miles away.
Yeah. I don't know if that's Cleveland, Tennessee, I assume. Whatever it was 15 to 20 miles away. They could feel the blast.
So the thing that was funny about that, it reminded me of this armory that blew up during World War I. They said that was the largest recorded blast on the planet at the time. And so it just reminded me of that story. And so this is like, they were mixing up basically just dynamite. Just
by hand. I said by hand.
Yeah, in smaller packages, but it was basically dynamite.
Yeah.
And easiest thing. What did they say, 1,000 cases a week or 500 cases a week?
I have to go back and look, but it was a lot.
It was when you said it was this is insane. This is like a major operation.
Oh yeah, like I said, it's at this point it was over $1 million in profit.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Obviously, the facility they just converted a dairy barn, as it quoted it, was not meant for what they were doing, and the people obviously were not educated and shouldn't have been doing that. That's insane.
That is crazy. Yeah, I'd never heard of this story before. This is really interesting.
It is. I was trying to get through it there. Hopefully, I did a decent job reading it.
It was pretty good. Yeah. I mean, I would say there were some misprinted words there.
Yeah. I had to restart, but that's all good.
Yeah.
Part of the live experience if you're here. But yeah, this one, when I first started reading about it, I was like, this is absolutely crazy. So imagine being this guy. What was his name? Dan Webb?
Yeah. Webb.
Right? Dan Webb. Yep. So Dan Webb was apparently delivering fireworks in New York when this happened. So it was the news report that we just watched said he hadn't been located yet. He was actually out of state selling the stuff that they were making.
Jeez Louise. That's crazy.
And part 2 gets even more interesting because they bring in this well-known Dr. Bass, who is a very interesting guy. I'm excited to share his report with you. It's very gruesome and terrible, though, just to give you a heads up. But his specialty is basically identifying dead bodies that are about impossible to identify. So part 2 goes into his report on that. So
that's crazy. Yeah.
Which this is, I think the report part is where it really gets scary because right now it's just like the build up to it. 11 people are dead, massive explosion. But this is the part 2 gets into the details of how bad the explosion was. And that's what makes it scary to me.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
What if you're living next door to somebody doing this?
I mean, you never know.
Yeah, it's
these people didn't know.
The cops knew something was going on in the area, right? But
yeah,
couldn't identify where. It was really, they said it was like tucked away in a holler and
yeah, it says up in like a wooded area.
Yeah.
You wouldn't I just keep coming back to it. It sounds like it's made up, right? Like someone has an illegal firework factory in their farm. That's crazy. That like nowadays, you know, if someone said there was like an illegal drug factory or something, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, but a firework factory making that much money.
Well, I know you love fireworks, so that's why I was excited to share this.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You don't looking that much though, do you?
No, I wouldn't even do it for myself.
You know a lot more about fireworks. Talk to me about these M80 and M100s before we go to your story.
Well, I know they were outlawed, I think, in the 60s. So it's been like by this point, it had even been like a while. But yeah, they used to be sold, and they were a quarter or a third stick of dynamite, depending on the manufacturer. And also, I think M80 was slightly less than the M100. So I think M80 is technically a quarter stick.
This thing's powerful.
Yeah, it will kill you. And okay, take out stuff.
One could really kill you. You're saying?
Yeah, you can still, in a weird way, get them because like say you make like a stump removal explosive, and it's technically an M80 from what I've heard, but you know it's only sold like Tractor Supply things, and you know, and actually I don't even know if they're still for sale, but I know for a long while they were.
Are these still banned?
Oh yeah. You like they'll sell something labeled M80 or maybe even labeled M800s to get around the naming. But usually what it is just a bunch of regular firecrackers wrapped in a wrapper that all explode pretty quickly, but not at the exact same time. They are considerably less powerful than like an M80 really was. And they also used to be called cherry bombs.
Yeah. Put them in mailboxes and stuff, kids would.
Yeah. So, like, the real cherry bombs and M80s, they've been outlawed for a real long time, but they have come up with, like, ways to make it seem like it's almost that powerful still, but it's not. And I've seen, like, videos of, because there are other countries where you can buy M80s still, and, like, they're a nightmare. I would never want to use one.
And this is a factory full of them.
Yeah. Thousands upon thousands of them.
And it sounds like an accident waiting to happen.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into part 2. So I will get back to you here. Let me start with the music for what you have.
All righty. All righty. See. Still not quite right, I don't think, on the audio, is it? The music sounds good.
You're sounding good. Yeah, I'll wave you down if you want.
Okay.
Mute and start yelling or something.
All right, cool. All righty. The second story we have is 4th of July haunted house. It was the 4th of July, and my mom, my dad, myself, and my brother Evan all decided to go to my mom's friend's house. When we got there, one of Evan's friends named Gage told us that their house was haunted. I kind of believed him, but I didn't want to take the risk of it not being haunted. I had to prove it. We went upstairs to investigate while our parents were outside watching the fireworks. All of a sudden, the lights behind me started flickering. None of the other kids were behind me. They were all ahead of me. I quickly went up the stairs, terrified with all the others. Gage told us that a guy named Ron died in the house way in the back. He said there was some strange activity in the bathrooms a lot of times. So I went into the bathroom while they stood out in the hallway. I turned to face them, and my shirt got pulled on 3 times. I ran out of the bathroom and stood there and looked in, and no one was in there. Then Gage told us more about this ghost, and that this Ron supposedly died in what is now his sister's room. We all went in there, and you get a sick feeling inside of you when you're standing there. I sat on the bed while my brother and his friend Gage went in the closet. Once they sat in the closet, and we all heard talking coming from somewhere. I asked them if they were talking, and they said they weren't. They came out of the closet, and Gage told us to look through the TV. We saw a black shadow walking back and forth behind us through the reflection of the TV. I didn't care what it was. I just wanted to get out of there. So I ran. They all came running down next, but Evan got stuck in some covers and finally was able to crawl out. Finally, our family was calling to us to come outside to watch the fireworks. We made it out, and I turned, and I saw a man's face in the window of his sister's room. I called the other kids to come over and look, and they all saw it too. And then, suddenly, the face was gone. I'm not sure if it was a ghost, but I can't prove that it wasn't either.
Would you hope it was a ghost?
I would. I mean, it's also, he might be thinking maybe they were playing a trick on, like an elaborate trick on him.
Yeah.
But, yeah, this was another one of those ones that I knew was, it's definitely written from a kid's perspective. So it's like, kind of like he's scared and he's recounting the story after having freshly been scared from this. What I like about it though is it's got like all the elements of a prank.
Yeah.
So like part of me is like, yeah, this might be a prank being pulled on him. The whole the kid setting them up to look through the screen and there's someone behind them walking around or something. But at the same time, it could be a ghost, and that would be pretty terrifying.
Something tugged on his shirt.
Yeah. Also, what I like about this story and the previous story is they're both kind of goofy and weird. My last story, though, gonna be a completely different ball game when I'm done. But anyway, this one though, I thought was a lot of fun. It is a classic ghost story. Something in the reflection, you're tugging on your shirt, the lights flickering, and then the face in the window. Love that.
Yeah. It's interesting because it is a kid, but it's obviously this kind of paranormal activity, we'll call it. It's not just happening to kids, but the fact that it is a kid, that it had to be terrifying. I do wonder if he was set up, though. I'm not going to lie.
It does seem like he was. And I think that would be, a pretty classic prank to play on, like someone coming to visit your area. And it's like, all right, I'm going to mess with this kid. We're going to make it seem like there's ghosts.
Yeah.
But at the same time, either way, as long as no harm came to any of them, this is a great night. This 4th of July, you might have a ghost you're looking at. I can't imagine a funner experience.
You had something to talk about forever too, though, right? I mean, you'll be talking about this story for the rest of your life. Obviously, he still is. I don't know how old he is now, but point being, you'll have something forever. That's pretty memorable.
Yeah, and that's what I loved about that one, because like Yeah, this is a great story. And whether or not it was a ghost, it doesn't matter because this is like sounds like a fun night to me. I don't know. I've been like, I have this like weird thing where I'm just like think about something nostalgic, even if it's something that was scary to me as a kid. I
Yeah.
think about it fondly sometimes because it's like I remember being scared of just random like shows or something when they came
Yeah.
on. Like
That
if
feeling,
I,
yeah.
yeah, like you would unsolved mysteries, the music would come on for that, and that would be kind
Yep.
of scary as a kid, you know.
What is
So
it? Circleville letter writer said El Sicos is what he wrote to Unsolved Mysteries.
yeah, boy, that one was a weird one. That was a weird story.
That's done really well. People are enjoying that one.
I bet that was crazy.
Yeah. Anyways, I do like the theme of this. It's like an innocent. There's so many ghost stories where like something really bad, like we share a lot of stories on here where really bad stuff happen. I guess what I'm saying, whether it's
Yeah,
ghost or not ghost. So it is kind of like a relief here, just like a
yeah.
innocent ghost interaction, right?
I mean, 4th of July is a party, you know.
Yeah. It has to be
So
more common to be like I don't like we share the crazy stuff because it's more entertaining, but there has to be more stories like this versus the crazy though.
yeah, and so like when I read these, I was like, you know, this feels fun.
Yeah.
It's different, but this last story I'm real excited about because it's I want to say more. It's real. It's very real, and there's some very interesting emotions. And I did a lot of extra research on this one because it's so interesting.
So you're really into it. I'm excited then.
Yeah, that one's gonna be really good. But anyway, I like this story. I think this kid is definitely getting a prank played on him. But either way, he may have saw a ghost that night.
I think everybody watching this wants to know where the hell is your mic?
Does it sound weird?
No, I just don't know where it is. I see a mic arm, but I don't see no mic.
Yeah, so it's like, oh shoot, it's
Right
up.
there. God.
It's up and forward. I forgot there's like this little extra ring around it while I was reaching up to it.
Yeah,
But yeah,
Luke breaks all of the proper mic form etiquette with using it, but it's all right.
yeah, I like it.
Somebody asked me once if you were because they couldn't see the mic if your headset was the thing. I said no, he's got a mic.
Yeah, no, it does have this like thing on there, but it's off.
Right.
But
Well, I know you had a mic because that was my old mic. So
yeah, I like to keep it up and out of my face, kind of thing. And
yeah, there's an advantage to having it further away. It picks up less like mouth noises and stuff, obviously.
yeah,
But I didn't know where the hell it was. I was like, where is it?
I also have like really bad like sinuses, so like I'm
Yeah.
always kind of breathing heavy.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I do like it away from me a little bit, but
Oh, now we
it's
know.
yeah, it keeps
People
the
are laughing.
frame clear.
People are laughing in the chat here. They enjoyed, I guess, that side note. That's what we do on this show. This is what we
Yeah.
do on Your Scary Stories. We go off on random things. Like I just said, I revamped my whole studio layout here. So I'm sitting
I
here
like
thinking,
it.
where the hell is his mic? But now I know. So let's go ahead and get into part 2 here. I do have another video. Like I said, this is Dr. Bass's name is. This is him in the years later, obviously recently. He's elder now by far, but he was sought by a local news station to do a segment because apparently he was going to make an appearance locally for the Children's Museum or something like that. So this kind of just shows you who wrote what we're about to talk about and who put in all this work. So let me pull it up.
Right after the explosion, you went down there in person, though.
I got a call about 11:30 that morning from the disaster team in Tennessee. Wanted to know if I would come down to an explosion.
And you've seen a lot in your career.
Oh, yes, yes.
I mean, this was pretty tragic, though, even compared to a lot of the scenes
Yes.
you've been called to.
Yes.
Well, let's put it this way. Dr. Bass had to put the top half of someone and match it up to the other part.
Oh, terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How about
you
that?
had
Is
to-
that a nice way of saying it?
Wow.
What we did was we rented 2 refrigerated trailers. We put the torsos in one trailer and the body parts on another. So you had torsos for females and males because they were both sexes. And literally, it just blew them apart. And when we went out and brought all this stuff back, we put, for example, let's say legs. We'd have 2 piles of legs, rights and lefts. However, in our culture, we say that women should shave their legs. And so, this is a good forensic thing. So you look at the leg, it's shaved, it went into the women's pile. So we had not only two, a right and a left, but we had two rights and two lefts divided by.
You're getting a glimpse at the science, and this is one interesting man, and they're a great dynamic duo
If
together.
that doesn't get you to buy your ticket right now, I'm fascinated. Again, children.
I love how it's all set up around a children's like thing. But
Yeah.
it seems really simple, but this is like this is like this guy's specialty. He's known for being this, you know?
Jesus.
Like this is his thing. He's like known as world renowned as one of the best at it. I guess like it seems simple, right? But now I think as I get into the details of what report he wrote for the Bureau, the simplicity that he was talking on that interview does not quite cover the great length and work it takes to do this. So again, what I'm about to read to you is from the Benton, Tennessee firework disaster that happened in 1983. And I will warn you, some of these details and things I'm about to say are gruesome. So if you are, if that bothers you, you probably don't want to listen to this, because this is going to go into detail of the remains of the individuals and stuff like that. So let me try to get the music queued up. Luke says, hell yeah. Okay, bring it on. Can you hear me? We gotta wait.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. I'll get into the details here. This is from his report. Body number 1. A woman who had been blown over the house. She hit the carport roof, punched through the corrugated fiberglass, then skidded across the concrete, her path marked by a wide streak of grease. Shreds of fabric clung to her shoulders and arms. The rest of her body was nude, her clothing ripped away by force of the blast, and her buttocks turned silver gray, the color of gunpowder. She lay face down, upper body on the edge of the concrete, her lower body on a piece of roof she had shattered. Her left leg, the foot had been blown off and all the flesh stripped from the bones of the lower leg. Her right leg was largely intact, and the shoe had been torn from the foot, but it stayed on long enough to protect the sole of her foot. Her toes were undamaged, though her ankle was shredded. The worst damage was at the other end of the body, though. The base of the skull was there, but the rest of her head was simply gone. Body number 2 had crashed through the metal roof of the house itself, splintered the 2-by-10-inch rafters, and come to rest in the attic. Another large white female, she had too been stripped by the blast. A 2-inch drywall screw lay beside her. Piece of foam board insulation was beneath her, while particles of the white foam and splinters of the rafters were sprinkled atop her bloody torso. She was also lying on her stomach, her right arm tucked underneath and body across, emerging near the left shoulder. Her left shoulder did not have an arm attached to it. The arm had been shredded off about 2 inches below. Large smear of blood and tissue marked the spot where the woman's head had impacted. The top of her head was missing, and her brain lay 4 feet away. Body number 3, another nude female, was the only one that was not hurled from the barn by the blast. She was laying face up, her arms flung back over her head, as if she had been sitting near the origin of the blast. As if when it happened, it topped her backwards. Her flesh was burned to a crisp grayish black, brittle and crumbly. Her lower legs were both missing from mid-shin down. Her forearms and hands were gone. Body number 4, out in the pasture between the barn and the woods, a line of flattened grass and gouge in the earth marked the place where a body had hit, then skipped another 15 feet before coming to rest. This one was young, slim white female. Unlike the older woman, she was not nude. She was wearing blue jeans and denim. It's pretty tough. The right leg of the jeans showed little damage. The left pants leg had been shredded, though the contusion had split open the left thigh. Her shirt had been peeled over her head. Her arms were still caught in the sleeve. Her bra was undamaged. Her legs, back, and shoulders were melted to pieces of pale, almost white skin. Body number 5. At the edge of the woods, they found the guy who might have been doing the mixing. He was laying face down, or at least his upper body was, but his torso had been twisted 180 spine snapping degrees, so his pelvis was facing up. That put his right leg where his left leg should have been. Again, that put his right leg where his left leg should have been. His left leg was nowhere near his body. His abdomen had been ripped away. Some of the entrails were exposed and the rest were missing. So was at the top a few inches of his left arm. Surprisingly, his face was relatively undamaged. Body number 10. One of the 3 male bodies was nude except for leather boots, still tightly laced around his feet and ankles. When we took off the boots, we saw that his feet were purple with bruises. One of his hands lay detached by a nearby grass. His head was nowhere to be found. Body number 11 was perhaps the most bizarre of all. The explosion had hurled him the furthest, nearly 100 yards, skipping across a pasture into the woods. As he entered the tree line, he snapped a branch on a pine. The jagged end of the branch pierced his abdomen and snagged a loop of his small intestine. As the body continued into the woods, the intestines were unspoiled like fishing line. Once he reached the end of the line, so to speak, he was yanked to a stop. They found his torso at the end of 20 feet of intestine, still stretched tight like rope. By the time the sun set on the scene of destruction, they had found 11 bodies or torsos, along with dozens of arms, legs, hands, and feet. People were not the only casualties. In the grass of the pasture lay a rabbit. It had been killed by the blast shockwave, but its fur was completely unharmed. Closer to the barn was a dead chicken. Its tail feathers were gone, showing it had been facing away from the blast. Another chicken had survived despite the loss of one leg, but it remained rooted in one spot, trembling for hours. The next morning, they did find additional pieces, a few ears and teeth and skull fragments and debris, a mandible and a foot-long section of a spine, half a dozen of the vertebrae in the woods. But after a while, it became clear that they had only recovered everything that was reasonably recoverable. Although many of the bodies were battered, it was still easy to distinguish the 3 male torsos from the 8 females. Next came the harder problem of matching the daunting stack of severed arms and legs to the proper torsos. Dr. Bass started with legs. To simplify the task, they divided the legs into lefts and rights, then further subdivided it into shaved and unshaved. That way, if the female torso were missing a left leg, they could go to a pile of shaved legs and look for the one whose break or length of girth matched the torso. Within a few hours, they had paired all the torso parts with they had paired all of the loose parts with torsos, even without DNA testing, which wasn't yet available back then. They hadn't found everything. A few fingers and toes and ears were gone, and substantial portions of faces and skulls were decimated by the blast. But they found most of almost everyone, which was remarkable considering the force of the explosion. Tima identified the dead as, and this is the name of the dead. I don't want to butcher their names, but I'm going to try my best here. Faye Trentham, 38. Daughter, Tana Trentham, 19. Doris Burns Longmire, 29. David Webb, 22. Brother of Dan Lee Webb. Sybil Duggan, 24. William Lee Burns, 38. Beatrice Webb, 51. Mother of Dan Webb. Dixie Freeman, 21. David Parks, 38. And his wife Judy, 36. And Albert Kenneth Johnson, 53, who was the uncle of Dan Webb. Authorities were unable to determine the exact cause of the explosion, but concluded that it had probably occurred as a result of explosives being mixed. The charred remains of an electrical drill with a paint stirring attachment were found, and the prevailing theory of the cause was that a spark from the drill's motor reached the mixture. Investigators concluded that other possible causes could have been sparking from an electrical wire, light fixture, or other appliances found on site, and the scraping of boots on the floor. A cigarette lighter and 3 packs of cigarettes were also found on site, which investigators determined could have caused the ignition of a highly explosive vapors and were byproducts of manufactured process. ATF agents estimated that approximately 300 pounds of explosives were detonated in the blast. Authority found 172 boxes of unexploded fireworks worth about $20,000, $55,000 today, and estimated to weigh more than 2,500 pounds, and 6 55-gallon steel drums full of chemical explosions in a nearby trailer. Federal firearm agents also found a firework case to 10 inches in length and 4 inches in diameter, which due to its large size prompted Polk County deputies to speculate that some of the explosives were being purchased by people with criminal intent, such as terrorists. The undetonated explosives were found buried in the ground on the farm and later detonated in an open pit nearby. Cooper Hill having been used as evidence in Webb's trial, the farm also found to be guarded by an elaborate security system, which consisted of surveillance cameras, electrical fences, alarms, guard dogs, and warning signs. Dan Lee Webb, who had been found in Lansing, Illinois, delivering 86,400 M80s during the event, surrendered at the Polk County Sheriff Jail 2 days later. He was charged with 11 counts of involuntary manslaughter and illegally manufacturing and possessing explosives, and jailed with a $300,000 bond, which is equivalent to about $816,000 these days. Linda Sue Webb was held on a $50,000 bond, equivalent to $136,000. Bail as a material witness in order to ensure her appearance in court. Webb's brother Larry was also held as a material witness with a $50,000 bond, but was released shortly after. Details of the trial. Debbie Trentham, 18, testified when she worked at the fireworks assembly line factory and linked Dan Lee Webb, 30, to operation. Miss Trentham said $5 an hour and was paid in cash. Miss Trentham said she started working at the factory in April. She was not asked where she was the day of the factory exploded. After they filed the firecracker tubes with the chemical stuff, I put the liquid gas in one of the tubes and put it in the fuses, she said. Bob Hollins, chief of the ATF explosion response team, said flash powder was packed into M80s and M100s manufactured at the plant. Hollins said, banned by federal law, the explosives were known as quarter pounders because they packed the power of a quarter pounder stick of dynamite. Hollins said friends of the victims told investigators that workers generally mixed the flash powder by hands like a salad. Dan pleaded guilty to 11 counts of involuntary manslaughter and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Webb's sentence to be served with a 10-year federal term. He was given on April 19th for manufacturing the explosives without a license. He was also fined $10,000 in federal case. After the trial, Webb was taken to Orangeburg, South Carolina for questioning about a similar explosion which killed 25 people there in 1983. According to Agent McCarty, assistance from Webb had enabled federal investigators to broaden their probe of illegal fireworks manufactured in 20 different states. Bramblett was arrested 2 days later in nearby Chatsworth, Georgia, after cases of M80 fireworks were found in 2 locations in Murray County. He was extradited to Polk County Jail. A federal court jury convicted him and another man on May 3rd, 1984, and 1 count of manufacturing illegal fireworks, 1 of conspiracy, and 1 of storing the homemade explosives. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison in July for his role in a similar incident that occurred on May 24th in Roseville, South Carolina, in which an explosion had illegal fireworks operation killed 2 and injured 5. He had $60,000 worth of illegal fireworks in his home at the time of his capture. On June 1986, Bramblett John Franklin Miller, this was the guy who was the manufacturer, the primary supplier of the materials, and 2 others were charged and found guilty of a jury of conspiracy in the operations. The 16 others pled guilty. A few weeks later, on July 7th, a U.S. District Court judge handed Bramblett a 10-year sentence for 1 count of participating in the activities that occurred. Wow, that was a lot.
That was rough. Wow, the descriptions, they were so similar to like war explosions and stuff like that, and the descriptions of what it did, like they do to soldiers' bodies. And these people were just working a crappy job, and they had no idea how dangerous it was. And for that to happen, that's rough. And then, like, there was another one that killed 25 people
that he may be connected to, and then others in the operations. It's not like there's 2 or 3 other ones that they connected him to. So a lot of deaths out of this.
That guy should be in. How long is he in jail for?
Dan Webb was 10 years, and I think the other individual were 10 years as well.
They should have been in jail for life for this.
Well, that's why I'm sharing the story, because it's scary. it could impact a lot of different people. You didn't know what you're doing. You're just trying to make money. And was that sentence enough? You're saying no.
Not at all. He's been out of jail for 30 years now, almost.
Yeah.
And he might be dead now, actually.
I don't know. Yeah.
But still, like, this guy is, tangentially connected to 30 or 40 people dead.
This guy and his operation, possibly.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that should be life. Just like, straight up, you get that many,
Obviously, this was a deep operation.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the name of the individual who actually had experience in manufacturing it that kind of orchestrated it all. I think he got 10 years as well.
He got 10 years too. Yeah.
Yeah, but I
Brandon
mean,
Black.
he was obviously very critical in this operation because he actually taught them how to do it. If you want to say taught them how to do it, I don't know how accurate that is.
So weird. Like, this should be like a movie. Or
I
like
had
a
never heard of
series.
this. This blew my mind. I was like, man, I'm really stretching saying this is a scary story, but this is like a firework accident that is beyond anything I've ever heard of. I heard of like firework factories exploding, but I guess this one was intriguing to me because all the different variables and factors that went into the operation and how it kind of webbed out into all these other things.
That was nuts. Yeah, and you still, like, you just don't think about illegal fireworks trade and manufacture as like a thing, really, man.
I wonder if it's still that big of a thing, doing that.
Probably. I don't know. You don't really hear about people, buying M80s too often anymore, but there's probably still people that do it. Yeah.
Somebody asked, how did they decide they were going to do this on fireworks? I think they had met with that, like connected with that dude, I think is what it was. They needed money. He needed money. He was facing extreme financial hardship running that bait.
Yeah. And then that guy knew that he had area to put together a factory at. And geez.
Sounds like that one guy kind of got him involved because he could see a profit from it. That's what it kind of sounds like to me.
Yeah. Good Lord. That's just monstrous.
What do you think in the chat and you, Luke, about the job that Dr. Bass does and did?
That's a tough job. But I mean, that's there's always got to be people that know how to do that kind of stuff. And
it seems silly, but put yourself in that moment. How difficult would that be?
It's probably the most like way you could distance yourself from it and not be bogged down with the horror is to kind of like be like, okay, this is the best way we can to
mathematical.
Start pairing these up. And so, like, you're not getting if you got this job you got to do, you just have to do it sometimes. And it's gross. And then, you have to be a certain type of person. I know I couldn't do it.
Yeah, it's an insane job.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that. Whew.
Imagine that. Calling you in, Luke. We got this disaster happened. I need you to recover the bodies. Did this all in a day, it sounded like, basically.
Yeah, and to pull it off without DNA matching and get highly probable connected bodies. That one that you described, they went flying and his intestines got hooked on the tree.
He is 20 feet long. Yeah.
Yeah, that is the strangest thing I have ever heard of in my life. Like, that's something out of a cheesy movie.
You got to think this explosion was so strong. How fast did that explosion?
Yes, over 100 yards.
I don't know what to say. Like, eject him, like how far to throw him. How fast was he moving? I bet he was moving pretty fast through there.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't expect that.
Yeah. Very gruesome one. The most gruesome thing we've ever probably talked about. But
yeah,
scary, man, that these people are just working and this happens. It's terrible.
Yeah. Dang. Just, that's messed up.
Luke says, shit. Well, man, last story of the night. You got a good lengthy one here.
Yes, I do. We're gonna be chasing a couple rabbits down some holes here on this one too.
And you're gonna tell me when you need me to do whatever you need me to do.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I'll let you know.
You mean cue the music up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Soon and very soon.
I think you're good.
Alrighty. Alright, so this story is tangentially, we're gonna call it the Ghost Lady on the Beach, because that's the name of the initial story. But after the story, I'm actually going to go on to another thing that I believe is connected, and I have reasonable evidence that these are all connected. So, the story. Many of us encounter someone who just grabs our attention in a way we can't explain. Like they know you from this or a previous life. I come from a long line of people who have encountered ghosts, but I myself, I don't encounter the supernatural that much. Tonight, I know I did. Our town is near a beach. Every 4th of July, we go and see the fireworks over the water. This year was no exception. Me and my wife arrived and set up chairs. We settled into the sand and chilled out, waiting for darkness to fall and the fireworks to start. There's a slight breeze, a perfect, beautiful evening. About 20 minutes after we settled in, I smelled a waft of what I could only describe as decayed roses on the breeze. Like flowers in a vase that should have been thrown out a few days ago. It wasn't a bad smell, but just like sweet roses that weren't fresh. And then I saw her. From behind walked a young woman in jeans, t-shirt, and ball cap. She looked about 25-ish. Had light brown wavy hair coming down halfway on her back. I was immediately struck by her presence. Not because she was overtly beautiful. She wasn't ugly by any means. She was definitely pretty. But something about her was off. Her face especially looked weird. Like her features didn't line up right or something. She stopped about 15 feet ahead of us and turned around. She looked right at me and smiled, and then sat down in the sand. At this point, I could guess what was really off about her was her smile. Her teeth kind of looked all smooth and just not natural. Something was amiss. I was enchanted by just the sight of her, though. I couldn't put it out of my head. I looked at my wife to see what she thought of this person, but she had no reaction, like she didn't even see her. I smelled the decaying roses again. This young woman in jeans and ball cap sat down, took off her flip-flops, and looked to the sky. She was sitting perpendicular to us, but facing away. When I thought about it, 2 more things struck me as very odd. She had no electronics, no cell phone. Everyone on the beach was taking selfies and playing with their phones. Even the older people were. This young woman had no visible phone at all. Her clothes also were strange. They were straight out of the 1970s. I grew up in the early 70s, so I know what normal people looked like back then, and she had that look. Totally down to the way her jeans and shirt looked. She seemed very content just sitting there looking at the sky and not worried about anything. And I still could smell those roses. I took a picture of the whole scene on my cell phone. The pretty sky, the beach, and the strange woman. Shortly after, she got up and walked away behind us. I turned around to see where she went, but she disappeared. She was gone. When I got home, I looked at the picture. I was not surprised to see she was not in it. You can bring that up now. You might think I freaked out, but on a spiritual level, I really didn't expect her to show up in this image. Just a green orb where she was sitting in the sand. I'm calm because I know I could tell that she meant no harm. She just wanted to be around us. I really believe she was a person who passed away back in the 70s. I just can't put it together right now, but if I do, I'll update. You can see the green orb sitting there on the ground, which is a very unusually green orb and rather large. Now, some people put some things together. And they turned, now this story is 2 years ago on 4th of July, so it's coming up on 2 years. This is where we're going to start talking about a different person, possibly, but what I believe is this person. And she was known as the Lady of the Dunes. This was until 2022, 2 years ago. This person was never identified, but was murdered in 1974 on 4th of July. She was found decaying on the beach. It was near where people would normally show up. They just hadn't been there in that exact area for a few days. There was blood in the sand, but they believe the body was staged there. It was brought there after having been killed somewhere else. It was discovered on July 26th. By this point, animals and bugs and such had decayed the body to the point that there was no chance of visual identification. She was wearing jeans. She had a t-shirt, and they were underneath her body, though. She had been stripped nude. And she was also laying on top of a green towel. Her face was deliberately disfigured to prevent identification, with many of her teeth cut out from her mouth. They also had cut off her hands and one of her forearms. The police believed that they were trying to prevent identification from any possible tells. The body appeared to be a woman in her early 20s to early 30s. In fact, they believe her to be 25 years old, as the man in this story mentioned that he thought the person looked like. She was also nearly decapitated. Her neck was cut almost clean through. There was also signs of assault, likely post-mortem. This person went unidentified for a long time, but then they started doing reconstruction on what they believe her face looked like. Now this set up an odd scenario. Joe Hill, the son of Stephen King, was looking at the reconstructed face one night, and he happened to be watching Jaws, the ultimate 4th of July movie, and there's a scene where there's an extra who looks at the screen wearing blue jeans and a shirt very similar to what was described as on that body. And then she looks away, and he says the face, he took a screenshot of it and everything. He said the face looks so similar that he was like, could this be the woman? Has she been in plain sight as an extra? She would have been in the area when they were filming the movie. So, they never could figure out who it was, because by this point there's no lists of who was extras that day. 2022, a few months after this man has his reported encounter with a ghost on the beach, they reopened the case in late August, and they were able to determine, using new technologies, that this is a woman who went missing in 1974 when her husband took her on a vacation in the area. He came back saying that she joined a cult and was leaving the family. And everyone tried to find her, but they never could. And her name is Ruth Mary Terry. And they said that she was actually 37 years old, but everyone who saw her said that she looked like she was in her early 20s because she was a very fit woman. She also looks virtually identical to both the woman in Jaws and in the reconstructions. They are certain that they have found the right person. and they are also certain that her husband murdered her. Unfortunately, he died in 2002 and was never brought to justice for the murder. So, I did some digging on if there was anything special about the color green. I went through a couple different spiritualist websites to check on that. And it does stand for a few things. One is obviously renewal, rebirth, but it also stands for safe passage through realms. Here is my belief on what happened here. I believe that she knew that very soon her murder was going to be solved. And she just desperately wanted someone to see her one last time on 4th of July. So she walked out, didn't care who it was, just thought, I want someone to know that I was here. And now her spirit has finally gotten some amount of peace with knowledge of her murder finally solved after all these years.
Wow. And there's the image.
Yeah. I thought the fact that the beach towel was green as well was an interesting tidbit of information. The body was laying on a green beach towel.
Wow. You know, if this picture was like hoaxed, they'd probably try to do a little bit more than the orb.
Yeah. I want to point out that this guy was not connected in any way, shape, or form with the other story. He doesn't know, or when he posted this story, he didn't know about the Lady in the Dunes.
Right.
And it just so happens in the right area. It's the right time of year. And it is like 60 days or 55 days before the murder is solved.
Wow.
On the 38th anniversary of her death.
Yeah.
This would be the 40th this year.
Wow.
This is crazy.
What a beautiful picture, though.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, I get that feeling. I know that feeling. He said, when you can see someone and you know that there's something different. There are times where I've seen people that I can't explain why. I was certain that they weren't real, like normal people, you know?
Yeah.
Like you'll see someone and you just look at them and you're like, these are not humans. Not that they're mean you any harm, but you'll see someone and you're like, this is something else. And I mean, it's only happened like once or in my life, but it's happened. And yeah, this was, when I read this story, I was like, this is the story. This is my story that signifies the most 4th of July thing I can think of. It is a terrible, tragic event that actually happened with this woman. And it is comforting to know that they at least figured it out finally after all those years. This Jane Doe finally being identified. And on top of that, they solved the murder because they knew it had to be this guy who told everybody that she just left him.
First off, well done with the, I guess, investigation of this. Put a lot of work into this. This was really neat. I'm just looking at that picture, thinking why she was there in that moment. Like, that's kind of like the $1 million question, I guess.
I just think she wanted to be seen. Yeah. I think she knew that it was happening. I also believe that whatever plane of existence there is besides this one doesn't follow the same rules of time. I feel like she knew that eventually she was going to be found out that it was what was happening.
Right.
And this was as close to the two events as possible. So it was like as close to the anniversary of her death and as close to when she will be, you know, or what will be revealed of how she died. And she just wanted to be like around someone again. I believe that I do believe that spirits do have that power, and I do believe that she showed up that day, just wanting to experience 4th of July again, wanting to experience being around people, and just to celebrate the fact that she knew that her murder was going to be solved.
I had to shut off that light. It was blaring in my face. Yeah, I mean this is a really amazing story. A lot of people in the chat are saying that too. It's crazy that this guy has probably no clue, you know. So what made you like connect this? Was it just like
there was someone in the comments, a more recent comment from a couple of years. So this story was posted a couple of years ago. The guy actually said that he went home that night and typed it out because it was so striking to him. Well, there was someone who later commented on it like a year ago saying, this sounds like this lady. And so I looked into it, and then I was reading it. I was like, there's no way it's not that lady.
Right.
And then I was like, okay, well, you know, is there anything else there? That's why I started looking up Green. And then I also was like looking up, I found out about Joe Hill, Stephen King's son. Like he believed for sure that was that woman as well. And this was years and years before they, you know, knew who she was. So I don't know. It was just and also that her husband took her in that area right around when they would be filming this movie. So like the everything's lining up. It's like all the stars aligned. This woman, one of the last times she was alive, probably in the film Jaws. And then now here she is, finally, you know, gotten the what's the word I'm looking for here? The justice of at least being known that she was murdered by her husband, and that who she was. She abandoned her family, as he told everybody.
Yeah, what a POS, huh?
Yeah.
The connection to Jaws is crazy. That's such a legendary movie.
And it's the 4th of July movie.
Exactly.
So, like this was as 4th of July a story as you can have. That's,
yeah.
Except for the fireworks thing. Good Lord. That was nuts.
Well, this is neat though. It's cool how you and others have looked further into this, and I guess really my biggest thing is hope she can rest in peace now.
Yeah, I hope so too, and I believe she is. I believe 100% that was like she was free, or knew that she was going to be free. She no longer had any connection to the world because now her story's known.
Yeah,
and then people would know. If there was anyone that was still alive in her family that didn't know what happened to her, at least now they would, or friends and stuff like that. And it's one hand, it's you know, you got the gross story of what this person did to that person, you know, the way they treated their body, and then you have this sort of striking story at the beach of this guy's encounter with this spirit, and then the overall, I feel like a consolation, or I feel better about the fact that we at least know the story now, and we know how it ended. While it ended terribly, I feel like for her, she's going to finally rest fully in peace.
Absolutely. Well, man, I think I don't have anything else to say about this one. What an incredible story, though.
Yeah.
Let's do what we usually do. Let's play a clip, come back, and wrap up the episode.
Yeah.
Some people are probably thinking this is the end of the world. Do you think it could be?
Yes. People break down into two groups. When they experience something lucky, group number one sees it as more than luck, more than coincidence. They see it as a sign, evidence that there is someone up there watching out for them. Group number two sees it as just pure luck, a happy turn of chance. People in group number two are looking at those 14 lights in a very suspicious way. For them, this situation is a 50-50. But deep down, they feel that whatever happens, they're on their own. And that fills them with fear. Group number one, they see those 14 lights. They're looking at a miracle, And deep down, they feel that whatever's going to happen, there will be someone there to help them. And that fills them with hope. So what you have to ask yourself is, what kind of person are you? Are you the kind that sees signs, sees miracles? Or do you believe that people just get lucky? Look at the question this way. Is it possible that there are no coincidences?
What a good clip for that ending. You know, I feel like that's almost kind of closely related to what we were just discussing. You know, the coincidences of that lady.
It's crazy because I picked this beforehand, just to for clarity. I didn't like go and choose it because of the story. I literally put that together for this episode, not knowing what story you're going to share.
Yeah, I got to watch that movie again. I love that movie.
Oh, it's a great movie. It's a great movie. I reference it a lot on here for a lot of its
sillier moments,
but it also has amazing moments, you know?
Oh yeah, it does.
It's such a well-made movie. I think of the scene when he goes to the guy's house that killed his wife, and the guy said he was leaving, whatever. And he has that scene with the alien in the pantry.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Knife.
That was terrifying.
It's crazy, like, if you do believe in all that stuff, how everything connects.
Yeah.
Just like the story you said. And it's a good night of stories. I think started off with the silly kind of childish story, which are fun. Went into a terrible tragedy of this Vinton, Tennessee firework disaster. Just terrible. But then you share this amazing story with, I don't want to say a happy ending because that might be pushing it a little bit, but a satisfying ending to this story for us. Not that we're affected by it directly, though.
Yeah, but I feel like everyone in general, upon hearing it, you want to know what happened and you want there to be some justice. And regardless of the fact that the guy was dead and couldn't be prosecuted, at least his name now is being attached to the word murderer. And that is an inescapable fact. He murdered his wife.
Kind of like the firework guy too, huh?
Yeah, that guy. He's a murderer. At the very least, he should have gotten like 20 counts of manslaughter. That's just ridiculous.
How do you like move on past that if you're these people, you know? I know the one guy died, obviously, and he didn't really. He'll always be known as that, but so will this other firework guy, you know?
Yeah. I mean,
think about he had all the family members there.
Yeah, I know, and that's actually pretty terrible.
You work with a lot of family members.
Yeah, and so, like, you know, the idea that you could do something like that and possibly get your family killed, it's terrible. It's a terrible idea, a terrible thing to do, and that's why I felt like he should have been punished more. But yeah, you know, that's neither here nor there. I'm not an arbitrator of justice or anything like that, so I, can't say anything. But I will say that I do feel like he got off very easy, and he should count as lucky stars.
Yeah. But you're just a singer of simple songs. You're not a real political man. You watch CNN, but you
don't really
know the difference between a rock and a Iran.
Yeah.
Dude, this is a good episode. It was kind of, I didn't really know where it was going to go. And now that we're there, it's kind of like, wow. A lot of people, the chat's also saying that.
It was an emotional roller coaster ride.
I wonder if they knew how it affected him and they were, I don't know. Imagine being that guy and living with what you did to your family,
Yeah.
Or not really. Because he didn't directly do it, but he owned it all. So
yeah.
Terrible. Dude, another good episode. We are going to come back after 4th of July. I think is it 3 weeks from now when we come back in? I don't remember. July. So the 4th of July is like on a Thursday.
Yeah.
We're going to be back in on the following Monday. So
yeah, it's like a 7th or 8th or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm not good at math.
Yeah, well, it's fine. I think I don't remember if it's 2 or 3 weeks from now, but yeah.
It's 8th. Okay, there we go.
Back on July 8th. You're saying Monday, July 8th. That's the date.
Yep.
And I don't know. Hopefully not your sad stories. I think we gotta kick out of that. This has been an emotional one for me, and I know he has you as well.
Yeah, I mean, we had it all tonight. We had some light and fun, like you said, and then we had this, grotesque, explosive report, and then the last one is sad, but then it was also kind of scary in the sense that that someone could be that monstrous.
Yeah, the body's terrible.
And then and not every ghost is scary though. Not every spirit is something to be afraid of. And this guy, mentioned that he wasn't afraid of the spirit because it didn't mean him any harm. And that's something to keep in mind with ghost stories. Just they're not always necessarily scary in the sense that, oh my God, it's going to kill me. It's scary in the sense that, why are they still here? And she was there because her murder, I believe, wasn't solved. And this was her last time on Earth that she had any connection to the Earth. Now that she has justice, I believe that she probably moved on. And that was, like I said, the green signifies safe passage in another realm. So this was her moving on.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to move on from this episode. It was a great one.
Yeah.
We hope you should join us live. I think you get to capture the real feel of it. It does have some post editing, kind of cleans it up and stuff, but live's the way to go on Mondays.
Oh, it is.
Go to yourscarystories.com. If you have a story you want to submit to, something you've experienced. And also you can go there to check out the schedule, the videos, and then the audio version of this show. So this is, I think we're going about 6 months strong here, man, on this one. And I'm loving it. This is an amazing show. I feel like if we could just have everybody watching, listening, just tell one person about it. It's kind of like a call to action. Just tell one person about this. We're really enjoying it. We're having a good time doing it, but also it's kind of cool sharing these stories that you may or may not have heard of. Some of them are scary. Some of them are scary in various different ways.
Yeah.
So I'm always honored to go on this journey with you, Luke.
Oh, I love it. It's my favorite.
And we'll be back at it again on July 8th, that Monday at 10:45-ish p.m. Eastern time. And I'm excited for it already. So I got to come up with some stories or submit some, please. Submit some if you have to. Luke, any closing thoughts?
No, I just hope everyone has a happy and safe 4th of July.
Absolutely. Yeah. Be safe. Enjoy the time with your family and remember the things that are important. Until then, though, keep being you and keep being great.
Jeff Townsend Media. CG, good night.
And the question is, do I stay here? Will you be back? Are you gonna come back? Will you be back? Are you coming back?